thing ever. But I think for what she was given, I thought she was decent in her role as April O'Neil. Now, was she the actress I would have chosen? Of course not. There are so many better choices. But for what she was given, I thought she played the role decently, and I think I found the writing to be a bit reflective on her as an actress, where she's a character who wants to be known for more than just her physical appearance and her good looks, and wants to actually strive to be a legit journalist. And me being an aspiring film critic, I kind of had a little bit of sympathy for her. I could understand her plight. As for the Ninja Turtles themselves, I thought their dialogue and their chemistry with each other worked for the most part. I do definitely agree that Leonardo, Donatello, Donatello was they portrayed him way too hard to be like a nerd, to the point where like he felt like an 80s representation of a nerd character in like an 80s TV show or cartoon, like Steve Urkel or something, where to the point where he's like, according to my calculation, we have like a 99.4% chance of succeeding. Way too over the top for like the serious tone that they're trying to go for. As for Michelangelo, he was annoying, but my main problem with Michelangelo was the whole running gag of him constantly hitting on April O'Neil, which I just found really disturbing and creepy, given how, like, A, he's not a human, he's a turtle, and B, he's such, like, this big hulking creature that having something like that hitting on, like, this, like, very small person just felt very uncomfortable for me. And, let's see, I thought Raphael and Leonardo, they pulled off they were really, I thought their portrayals were really good. I like that character arc that Raphael goes through. I like a lot of the dialogue that they spoke. As for the villains, Shredder, the interesting thing is, as soon as the first time I saw Shredder in his full like armor, in that full like Darth Skeletron armor, I laughed out loud when I saw it. Really? You want me to take you seriously in that? Especially like with all those like he feels like a children's let's say a 5-year-old's representation of what a cool villain looks like, where it's like, we want to have him with so much armor, we're going to have him like these big magnets, we're going to give him like 20 different knives and swords, it's going to be really awesome. And the thing is with him, I thought he was really cool and intimidating, similar to the previous portrayal of the Shredder from Ninja Turtles 1 and 2. But then his importance in the plot kind of diminishes the more we go into the movie, where even though he's the last opponent that the Turtles face, he felt more like the second in command with, what's his name? With William Fichtner as Eric Sachs. He felt more like the main villain than the main villain, where he's like, where Shredder, he feels he should be the Emperor from Star Wars, but instead he feels more like the like Darth Vader, which I guess is very accurate considering the Darth Skeletron title you gave him. As for Splinter, I thought Splinter was really cool. I like he's a much more aggressive. He plays the role of a much more aggressive, more disciplinary father figure for the Turtles. I really did not like his design at all. I thought they tried way too hard to give him that realistic rat design.
Yeah.
The black eyes, the bald face. And I gotta ask, like, I understand, like, in previous incarnations of Splinter, he's always had an Asian background, which is why he kind of has a Japanese accent, why he dresses up, kind of like that whole, like, Fu Manchu sort of style. But for this Splinter, he's completely American, so the fact that he acts and dresses like that Asian kung fu ninja master, he kind of comes across as like a weeaboo in this case.
Okay, I'm never going to look at Splinter the same way ever again now.
Sorry.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in this movie, there's no mention of Hamato Yoshi.
No.
No, because he's a lab rat in this version. He's an American lab rat who just so happens to learn ninjutsu from a book. But anyways, the Ninja Turtles. I haven't talked on their design. I haven't spoken about their designs yet. I was taken aback when I first saw their hulking designs. I mean, when I first saw them, I'm like, are these the Ninja Turtles or are these the Street Sharks? What movie am I watching? But as unlike Shredder and Splinter, I eventually got used to their designs. Yeah, they really other than Donatello trying so hard to emphasize his one characteristic as the nerd, but for everyone else, I could get behind, especially Leonardo and his like makeshift samurai armor. I thought in terms of the special effects were great. The cinematography was much better than what I saw in Transformers, in that it wasn't nauseating, or it felt kind of very, I wouldn't say creative, but it felt very entertaining if I get right down to it. The one thing I did have a problem with was the origin, and how, much like with the new Spider-Man, the new Amazing Spider-Man series, they try to tie everything together, where everything all leads back to this one central event or location or plot device. And the reason why I have a problem with that is that I always try to use this metaphor where trying to tie everything together is kind of like going to homeschool as opposed to public school, where with homeschool, your entire world revolves around your home. Your teachers are your parents, the only people you know are your siblings, and your world is very small in that way. Whereas with public school, you are introduced to tons of different people who are not related to you in any way whatsoever, and there are many more possibilities for friendships and enemies and connections that you can make, different stories to tell. And that's the problem, why I have a problem with Origins that try to tie everything together, because it limits the world, where if anything were to happen, if any new sort of villain like the Rat King or Leatherhead or Krang, if anyone like that shows up, it's all going to be tied to this one origin, which makes everything feel very dull and predictable, as opposed to just letting the entire world show up, where you have aliens and random monsters and mutations and people. So I guess with this thing, by having this new origin where they're all like lab turtles and a lab rat, they're all with Megan. They all used to belong to Megan Fox, and Megan Fox's father was involved with creating them. It just makes it feel the world very small and less interesting as a whole. And I guess that's my biggest problem with the movie, outside of the cliche writing, some really bad jokes or annoying characters that fall flat. But overall, I feel like this movie does work for the most part, and it's a decent time waster. Unlike Transformers, which left me bored, I was fairly amused by TMNT 2014.
Okay, I'd say that's fair for that input.
One more thing before we move on, please.
Sure.
Is it okay if I can make like a screenshot of Shredder and I can have a caption called Darth Skeletron?
Go nuts.
Just for the balls.
Go nuts.
Thank you, but anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier. Very complex. Chris Evans really improved as Rogers and Cap, where he questions what is right and wrong with S.H.I.E.L.D. and is conflicted on everything he's done and can do with S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a story that really makes you think of, are people who they say they are, and loyalties that are tested when Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, comes face to face with Steve. It's a decent follow-up to the Avengers, and I went in not with too much expectations, because for Captain America, after the Avengers, the only thing you can think of him doing after that is just continuing work with S.H.I.E.L.D. and just doing these various strategic military operations, which he does do for the most part, but it's when you uncover this whole conspiracy with Hydra and that douchebag senator from Iron Man 2 that Robert Downey Jr. just played brilliantly off of him. You didn't see some of the plot twists come in, like the scientist that they had from the first Captain America actually installs his entire conscious mind onto like a 1960s, 1970s computer. I'm like, okay, a little bit cliche, but it's probably the only way he's actually able to still be in this world. And you felt like you got more for your money on this one. You felt like, okay, we started with how this situation was at stop A, where everything's hunky-dory. Then you get to the middle where it's like, okay, people aren't who they say they are, things are messed up, and then you get to the resolution where S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone, and now Cap is trying to figure out, okay, where do I go next from here? Black Widow's essentially trying to make a new identity for herself, and Nick Fury is missing in action for all intents and purposes. So it's not what I would expect from what I would normally get from a Marvel movie. I mean, it went from being a superhero movie to being a political thriller, which I will give Marvel credit, because that's ballsy on their part, and I think the payoff was immense, and they got what they were looking for. Kaiju.
Okay, so yeah, with Captain America 2 is definitely one of the best movies I have seen. This is probably within my top 5 movies I've seen in 2014. As unlike previous, when it came to the previous Avengers Phase 2 films, I liked Iron Man 3, but I can understand why people had problems with it. And then Thor 2 came out, and it kind of left everyone a bit like it felt lackluster. But I feel like with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it reinvigorated like new life into this franchise, and it made me more excited now more than ever for what this cinematic universe will turn out. Since like how you mentioned, how there's this big political thriller with this big conspiracy with Hydra and Shield. I loved all the twists and turns that the plot kept dishing out. And more importantly, I love the amazing chemistry that Captain America had with the Falcon and Black Widow. I love the friendship that is built between him and his new companions. I liked how there was this level of trust that was gained between Black Widow and Cap during their adventures. I also like how this is like a movie that, like you mentioned, MJ, it is a movie that really makes you think, where is total security the right thing to have at the price of freedom? And it really was something that was also brought up in the last Captain America movie, where it was the main goal of the Red Skull's plan, where to have, in order to have like the perfect society, everybody must bow down to him, because he believed he knew what he wanted, what was good for humanity. I even liked how there was the world building in this film. I even liked how there was even a very not subtle, but there was a very like blink and you miss it reference to Doctor Strange when it came to how S.H.I.E.L.D. was keeping tabs on everybody who may possess a threat against them. I guess the last thing I wanted to mention, how like there's a very imaginative, a very thrilling action sequences. I thought the Falcon his flying was very great. I didn't know how they were going to portray the Falcon in the cinematic universe, considering how very extravagant his comic book costume is. But I thought that with what he had felt very grounded in reality, yet was still fantastical enough to fit in with the likes of like Iron Man and Cap. I guess the one thing I could say that I didn't like was the use of shaky cam, and that again, I had this really big issue against shaky cam, quick cut style of cinematography that I see in every single action movie nowadays. And it's always bothered me, and I'm never going to stop complaining about it in my reviews. But what are you going to do? But I feel like at least it's not as bad as I've seen it in other action-oriented films. So all I can say is that Captain America: The Winter Soldier was a great movie. It's a great superhero movie, great political thriller. And as a little side note, I know back then my mom used to be a big fan of superhero movies like the Christopher Reeve Superman, Michael Keaton Batman, but she hasn't stopped seeing superhero movies since 2000. Wow. But funny enough, when I decided to take my mom out to see Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and this really was the movie that got her back into superhero films. Wow. And I guess that just goes to show you how these Marvel movies, they really know how to be accessible to all audiences, to like comic book fans, to like hardcore, casual, or people who just know characters from the cartoons or are being introduced to them for the first time. They're not so much worried about who they're appealing to, but they want to make just really good movies overall that can entertain anyone. And for that, I had to say this was easily one of the best films I've seen this year.
Yeah, that's a decent perspective to look at it. Some of the Marvel and DC stories I would like to see done. Now, I know with Batman, Superman, they are going with a slight emphasis of The Dark Knight Returns, but I would actually like to see Dark Knight Returns just to be done full stop. And a lot of people have said the only person that could play a much more veteran Batman to fit that mold is Michael Keaton. Because think about it, he is within that age range now to play that particular Bruce Wayne and Batman, and we know the man can pull it off because of the fact, you know, originally when he was up for the role of Batman in '89, Wall Street said, oh, you can't have a comedian actor as you know, somewhat serious as Batman. Yeah, people saw the movie and they're like, well, don't we feel stupid? But another movie I'd like to see done, particularly from Spider-Man's point of view, I'd love to see The Secret Wars be done by going off onto that other planet with the Beyonder and have Captain America, Iron Man, Storm, and actually bring in the Hulk and She-Hulk, because originally, and Phoenix might remember this, when they did this adaptation originally in the 90s Spider-Man animated series, they got the Lizard instead, because they originally wanted to get Hulk and She-Hulk, but because the Incredible Hulk cartoon was over on UPN, there was network restrictions, so they couldn't use the character for that, which I thought was ridiculous, since Marvel actually owned the rights to the character. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to make a big deal out of this, but that's one story I'd like to see done. And of course, you know, for 2016, we're getting the X-Men Apocalypse series, which is moving on from where Days of Future Past left off, which I have to say, that's the best X-Men movie I've ever seen. You know, when you consider, I mean, X3 was okay, and I felt X-Men Origins Wolverine could have been done a lot better. Rather than reboot the whole franchise, they just said, no, let's just do a movie where we undo all the damage and set everything right and repair all the problems. They went and did that, and one of the rumors I've been hearing for X-Men Apocalypse is that for the young Jean Grey, a lot of people actually want to see Chloe Moretz as a very young, young Jean Grey in that role. And given that girl's propensity for amazing talent, I think she would pull that off, and then some.